Balance is what we all seek, in creeks and stones, in winds and homes. For evil has no meaning on its own. To challenge this evil, one needs a heart of stone, and strength that is new shall finally be born. Fight you shall, fight you must, on your own when all is gone. Some live to fight, some fight to live, but a hermit alone fights on his own, for there can be only one above fear or foam, with nothing to lose or nothing to mourn. Such is the life of hermit alone. Hello everyone, I'm the Holy Hermit, and I welcome you all to another video of mine. Imagine a monk that deals more damage every time he hits an opponent. His DPS increases with every single blow. Each time he's hitting his opponents, he has a better chance of surviving. The more he attacks, the stronger he gets. We are not far away from this vision, as in this video I'll show you exactly how to do that. But before I move on further, I will make a quick announcement. From now on, every Sunday, 6 PM GMT, I will be live streaming on Twitch TV. So if you want to come and find me there, if you want to farm with me, please do so. Now let's get back to our video then. This is the gear I wear. This gear gives me 274k DPS, quite an ideal choice for clearing monster power 10 and to showcase my build called Warrior's Might. Whatever I do here, whoever I hit, I get stronger with each strike. Every blow I deal to my opponent, I gain a buff to my damage. If damage dealing is your way to go, if you want to be a DPS monk, then this is one of the most consistent builds you'll find in the game. What that means is each and every skill I'm using on this build is giving me more damage. So we start off with Way of 100 Fist, Blazing Fists. Every time I'm hitting anyone, I'm gaining buff to my damage in form of increased attack speed. My Deadly Reach Foresight also gives me another 10% additional damage, quite a useful addition again. I have Blinding Flash, Faith in Light, ever so powerful rune. It blinds enemies and increases my DPS by 30%, a significant amount you can see. If I'm after lifesteal and hitting opponents with more DPS, I use my Sweeping Wind with Cyclone. I am dealing damage to my opponents and healing my own self in the process. Blazing Wrath being our healing rune. It's doing the healing bit of course, but it's also giving me 15% damage buff. And finally of course, I'm using Mantra of Conviction overall. Every time I recast his ability for 3 seconds, monsters are susceptible to 48% more damage. My passives I'm using is One with Everything, to help me survive on high monster powers, perhaps the only skill rune here that's not focused around DPS. Combination Strike, which increases my DPS every time I'm using a spirit generating ability. And last but not least, I have my cooldown reduced that allows me to use Faith in Light and Blazing Wrath again and again, with a reduced cooldown of course. This is the build right here for you. But this is just scratching the surface really, so we delve off into our build a little bit more, try and figure out where the damage is coming from, and what part is responsible for survival. So first up is the damage of course. The main bit of damage is coming from Way of 100 Fist. Every time you're attacking your opponent, you get an increased attack speed. This effect can last up to 5 seconds. When that effect is in process, the idea would be to use Deadly Reach with Foresight. This increases your damage a little bit more every time you're hitting them. So in a way, you are combining the attack speed of Way of 100 Fist with your Deadly Reach Foresight to gain elevated DPS. But that's not all of course. The next part of DPS is coming from Blazing Wrath, giving you additional 15% increase in DPS. You're also using Overall. It's not increasing your DPS, but is making your monsters weaker around you. Even the passives you use in this build are helping you to deal more damage. Combination Strike gives you additional DPS every time you're using more than one spirit regenerating abilities. And finally, for that elevated amount of DPS you get, that instant flash, you look at Faith in Light. When you blind opponents, you deal tons of damage, more damage than you're dealing right now, way more, every time you cast his ability. This is where you get the damage from. But on higher monster power, damage itself cannot help you to survive. So we look at the survival aspect of our build now. Blinding Flash quite simply blinds the opponents around you. They are susceptible to damage. You are stronger, whereas they are weaker with every single hit, this effect lasting up to 3 seconds. You also have your healing rune to give you extra health, but that's not all. We are using Beacon of Yitar, that reduces our cooldown. We can use both of these abilities a lot more frequently than we normally can, allowing us to be stronger, allowing them to be weaker for a longer duration. Cyclone also helps us to survive. The life leech that you get from the tornadoes being spawned with this build help you a lot in surviving. All the crit damage you're dealing, the cyclones have a chance to be spawned, and you have a chance to be healed. To prove the point over here in the video, I'm playing on monster power 10 with just 2.8% life leech on my total weapons, but still being able to do well just because the elevated amount of DPS, thanks a little bit to my gear, but more of it to my build. There are a lot of builds that float around Sanctuary giving players idea on how to increase their DPS. This build does it all and more. It gives you a chance to survive on higher monster power. It gives you an option to deal tons of damage even if you can't. No matter what your gear is, what you're using, it holds one true promise to the player, that every time you're using this build you'll have more DPS. If party play is your option, then this build also gives you another nice idea. If your character is on low enough DPS, you can still perform well in a group and survive. Sheer amount of attack speed and damage allows you to survive on higher monster powers quite simply by hitting them. Use Way of 100 Fist, walk into a battle, quickly build up your stack, your 3 stacks that is of attack, move away from the opponent and kite them using Deadly Reach. Another great idea, if monsters have Desecrator or Plague around them, you can stand out of it, still hit them and generate all those needing tornadoes in your favour. When you're overwhelmed, you can always blind them with your ability. If they want to surround you, Sweeping Wind will take care of them. If you seem to get overwhelmed by enemies, the idea then would be to use your Blinding Flash and your Blazing Wrath. You're becoming stronger with every time you're casting this, and monsters are becoming weaker. Your Beacon of Yitar allows you to cast these abilities again and again. There's always something at your disposal and you're never short of a skill in need. But if you're finding it hard to survive on high monster power, maybe try another life leech weapon. For what's better than one weapon would be 2 weapons with life leech. So this is the build for you. I hoped you got the idea of dealing high enough damage and surviving solely because of the amount of damage you deal. So give it a go, see if you can survive on your current monster power, and then ramp it up to a level or 2 above it, see if you're still doing well, because your DPS is going to be a lot higher than it is right now, I can promise you that. This has been the Holy Hermit for you, and just to remind you all again, I will be live streaming from now on every Sunday at 6 PM GMT, so come and find me on Twitch TV. I'm called Holy Hermit, holy_then Hermit. So I hope you all have a nice day ahead. Thanks ever so much for listening. Take care of yourself. And remember, 2 hermits are better than 1. And what we do here matters in the end.